Hello and welcome back to Fun Hills Briar. I am Gareth. Again, sitting out in the back garden on a beautiful mid-August morning. Enjoying a coffee. Not quite back to the pipe again, based on my laying off the staying away from nicotine while I let my hernia surgery heal up. But getting close to that first pipe to resume. I wanted to just re-record a video here. I recorded basically this same video talking about the same subject a week ago, but I apparently recorded it in like 4K on my phone. And when I went to edit it, this one I actually want to do a little bit of editing with, and I guess the 4K video file size just like overwhelmed my 5-year-old laptop and the Adobe Premiere Elements program that I use to edit, because that first off, you like the video, it came up upside down, which wasn't a big deal. I rotated it, but the video and the audio just would not sync up, and I just had to delete the whole thing and just try to do record it again. So that's what I'm doing. Maybe the video will come out a little bit more smoothly than it did last time. But okay, in this video, I'm going to talk about Hunter S. Thompson, who was an American author, journalist, whatever you want to exactly term him as. He was a doctor of journalism, as he said. And I'll say this video contains an Easter egg, as I guess as the kids are saying these days. The bugs are going after me, of course. This video contains an Easter egg, and let me know if you figure out what it is. And yeah, you'll win, but you know, you won't. I don't have a prize or anything, but you'll win, and you'll score points with me, I guess. You may have already figured it out, but anyway. So the reason this came to my mind to talk about Hunter Thompson is just within the last couple weeks, I reread Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which was a book he wrote. I had read it about 10 years before, but I decided I wanted to reread it in large part because here in about a month and a half, not even a month and a half, my wife and I are going to go out to Las Vegas for a wedding, and we thought about flying and driving and all that, and we finally settled on just making a big road trip out of it. And as part of our road trip out to Las Vegas, we're going to drive from Vegas to LA to probably like Santa Monica or something, just to go to the beach, because my wife has been out there before, at least to LA, and they went out to Catalina Island out there. But I, believe it or not, still have not seen the ocean. Once upon a time, I was down in Mobile, Alabama, and I even saw like big like shipping or whatever tanker ships. Even I saw one like float by, but from where I was at, I didn't even see the water. So I know Mobile Bay is a little bit different than the ocean. But anyway, believe it or not, I still haven't seen the ocean. Pretty much all my travels have been more inland. But so we're gonna wind up driving from LA back to Las Vegas, and that is basically where Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas starts. And essentially what it is Hunter Thompson, he wrote I think it was published in 2 parts in Rolling Stone magazine back in like 1971 or so, and it was put together in book form and published. And back in 98, I think 1998, they made a movie of it starring Johnny Depp as essentially as the Hunter S. Thompson character, although the character is in the book goes by the name Raoul Duke. But I just, you know, so I reread the book, and it's a good book. It's a crazy wild ride, just like that movie. It's usually Hunter Thompson is a guy who he's very well known in certain circles, but outside of that, he's not really known. And usually, if I'm talking to somebody and my only possible kind of in that I have to kind of talking about him with somebody is to ask somebody, have you ever seen part of a movie or seen the movie Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas? And people either have no idea what I'm talking about, or they'll say, oh yeah, you know, I think I saw part of that once. That movie was bizarre, and you know, and I'll have to say yes, exactly. That was my experience with it. I was kind of aware of it. I saw some like Siskel and Ebert show back when that was a thing, and it was when the movie came out, and I remember seeing, you know, bits of it as they're talking about it, thinking like, what the hell is this? I had no clue who Hunter Thompson was and all that, and they're talking about this, some book that got made into a movie or whatever. And anyway, a number of years went by, and I saw part of it on TV, and I recognized it as that movie that they were talking about on Siskel and Ebert, but it just like seemed really crazy. And then at some point I watched it, I saw the whole movie, and I started kind of, things started making a bit more sense, as much sense as they're going to make, because it unless you've like read the book or seen the movie, you know, it's a wild ride, I guess. That's really the only way to put it. But anyway, Hunter Thompson was a writer and a very interesting guy. He pretty much spent all of his adult life, I guess I wouldn't say drunk, but, you know, with alcohol in the system, because he unfortunately became such a hardcore alcoholic that he pretty much had to keep a steady stream of alcohol in the system. Otherwise, he was going to go into withdrawal and have, you know, serious problems. And he did a lot of drugs, and he lived outside of a small town. It's not much of a town, but it's called Woody Creek, Colorado. It's just down the valley a bit from Aspen, Colorado. He lived out in the country, in a house. There's some buildings, not too many buildings, but he referred to it as his fortified compound. Well, I don't think it was ever. It's not too compoundy of a compound, and it wasn't all that fortified. Main thing is, if you if you showed up on his property, you weren't supposed to be there. You were probably going to get shot at, but by him. He was a big-time gun nut. He loved to like blow stuff up. He lived out in the country near some other people. I think like one of the Hall & Oates guys, I don't know if it's Hall or Oates, but they basically live like right across the road from him. There's another movie actor, I think, that actually lived right around there too. But anyway, he loved to like blow stuff up. He'd like shoot propane tanks and stuff and blow them up. And the guy, he back in 1970, he ran for sheriff of Pitkin County, which is the county that Aspen and Woody Creek are in. And he lost, but actually he got quite a few votes. I think he actually won the majority of the votes in Aspen, the city itself, but in the broader, he lost big time out in the county, which is not a surprise because the people out in the county were a bit more conservative. And he ran as the freak power candidate, is what they called it. And it was kind of a, you know, it's kind of a hippie, young people, youth movement. I think that's what it's called, the hippie thing. I mean, that's kind of what he was running on, trying to appeal to. And I have to admit that, kind of looking back on it now, and having spent, Aspen's a place that I like to go. I like to go to that area, just because there's a lot of really wonderful mountains around Aspen, a lot of great places to ride a bike around Aspen, a lot of good mountain riding, road cycling roads and stuff like that. So over the years, I've been to Aspen, been through there a good number of times, and I have to admit, even though I definitely wouldn't have agreed with a number of the things that Hunter Thompson was running on in that sheriff's campaign, and some of the things he supported, like drug use and things like that, some of the other aspects, I actually think I would have kind of been pretty well in agreement with. I think that they were somewhat trying to fight against kind of what Aspen has become. You know, how it was sort of sold out and turned into this, you know, what it is, this high dollar, you know, playground of the rich and wealthy, and you know, well, whoever else wants to go there too, sort of place. And I think, you know, one of the things he wanted to do was, which, not that the sheriff would do this, but he wanted to like change the name of Aspen to Fat City. The thinking basically was that, like, who's going to come here and go skiing and shoot their money around when it has such a stupid name of Fat City, and just stuff like that. Yeah, he ran for sheriff and was defeated, and it was actually about a year after that that he wrote Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And the book, it's essentially a work of fiction, although it is based on a real trip where Hunter Thompson and his attorney friend Oscar Zeta Acosta, they went from LA, where they were working on something. Hunter Thompson was working on writing an article about some stuff that was going on there. Kind of a heavy situation, as they would have said back then, that he kind of wanted to get a bit of a break from. So they went to they drove from LA to Las Vegas to kind of get away from that. And anyway, that's kind of what gave birth to Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. But it's the stuff, so they actually did go to Vegas, but the stuff that's in the book, I find it kind of impossible to figure out kind of where the true stuff ends and the fictitious stuff begins, because it's a wild ride. And I know Hunter Thompson did do some wild stuff, but at the same time, he was not near as wild and crazy as that book is. The stuff that the characters do in that book. But he also wrote a book about the Hells Angels. That was kind of like his first, that's kind of the piece of literature or whatever that put him on the map. When he lived out in California, he spent some time writing with the Hells Angels. He wasn't a member or anything, but he kind of got to know some of them, and he wrote this book about them. And he wound up in a situation where he got beat up by some of them because he pissed one of them off, and that was the end of him spending time with them. And he wrote this book that kind of put him on the map. I think that's actually how he got the money that initially got him, that he enabled him to buy that house in Woody Creek. And he also wrote a book about, it's called like Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, 1972, something like that, where he covered, as a journalist, he covered the 1972 presidential campaign, primarily the primary campaign on the Democratic side, because Nixon was running for re-election that year, and he backed George McGovern, who became the nominee and then lost big time in the general election. But Hunter Thompson hated Richard Nixon. Although, interestingly enough, it was, I don't know if it was during that campaign or some other campaign, apparently Hunter Thompson and Richard Nixon found themselves in the same limousine or whatever, driving from, is it one of the cities in New Hampshire, because it had something to do with the New Hampshire primary. The name escapes me right now, but they were like driving from New Hampshire down to, like, I don't know, Boston or wherever. So he actually spent a while in the same, like, city next to Richard Nixon, and they apparently, Richard Nixon was a big football nut and Hunter Thompson was a big sports nut, and apparently they, at least for that conversation, they really hit it off talking about football. But outside of that, yeah, Hunter Thompson just hated Richard Nixon, thought he was a crook and just not a good guy. And, you know, interestingly enough, that within a couple years, you know, the world kind of figured out, you know, if Richard Nixon being kind of a lying crook was the case or not. You know, I'd say, obviously, I personally think the guy did a good number of things that were good, but at the same time, yeah, wasn't the best, most honest person by any stretch of the imagination, even if he wanted to portray himself as such. But anyway, yeah, Hunter Thompson, yeah, part of me kind of struggles to figure out. I guess I'm a fan of the guy, but at the same time, I don't quite understand why. Because while Hunter Thompson, he's difficult to put really into a certain category in a lot of ways, but, like, politically speaking, a lot of his ideas were more liberal. I think there's no doubt about that. At the same time, though, you know, his like big time gun nut beliefs, you know, aren't very liberal. I would almost just kind of call him more of kind of like a left leaning libertarian, I guess. So generally, I mean, I find myself in general disagreeing with a lot of his political ideas on a lot of stuff, but so don't really share that in common. But I don't know. He just kind of, he's a guy who definitely lived his own life and marched to the beat of his own drum, sort of thing. And I don't know, I guess I just find that intriguing. Very interesting guy, very, I don't know if I'd say charismatic is the right word, but just a super interesting guy. And he had just like tons of celebrity friends. I think just because people were aware of his work and just wanted to get to know him, I guess. And there were just a bunch of like Hollywood actors were good friends with him. A lot of famous writers and journalists were friends with them. Yeah, he just, and I think a lot of these friends, they would just come stop by his house out in Woody Creek, Colorado, and drop in and spend time with them. And I have this like video I don't know, it's not really a documentary, but there's some guy that did some video stuff who must have been friends with Hunter Thompson, because he has a lot of video of like stuff in his house and things that he was involved with and stuff. And there's this one thing, you know, Hunter Thompson, he would hang out in his kitchen. That's where he had his typewriter. And it was like his workspace, and he's hanging out there, and he has some like friends that are probably like, I don't know, I can't remember who it was, but quite possibly they were actors or, you know, celebrities hanging out with them. And then this guy walks in from the door, like from the garage, coming into the kitchen, and it's like Keith Richards. I mean, that's the kind of thing that went on in Hunter Thompson's house. Just people like that dropping by. And I'm sure it didn't hurt that, you know, he just lived a short drive away from Aspen, Colorado, which is the type of town that a lot of those famous sort tend to go to and all that sort of thing. But yeah, Hunter Thompson was really good friends with Johnny Depp, and supposedly the two of them, as the story goes, they kind of bumped into each other just by accident at this bar restaurant called the Woody Creek Tavern, which is actually in the town of Woody Creek. The town, there's not much there, but there's this bar there, and supposedly they just like bumped into each other and they really hit it off because they're both from Kentucky. And oh yeah, here's the trash truck driving by. Hopefully it doesn't make too much noise. I'm just gonna keep going. But apparently they hit it off, and Hunter Thompson invited Johnny Depp to go out to his house and shoot guns, so they do that. Anyway, supposedly Johnny Depp actually spent quite a while living at Hunter Thompson's house, just kind of getting to know him and kind of like study his mannerisms and stuff, because he was going to portray him in the Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas movie. And I've noticed that there's a lot of kind of subtle, you know, like physical mannerisms and stuff that Hunter Thompson had, that Johnny Depp did a really good job of portraying in that movie. I think he really did a very good job of portraying the character. But yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to kind of do a video just talking about Hunter Thompson and this guy who I'm a fan of, and at the same time I don't exactly fully understand why, because I'm not all about, yeah, I like alcoholic beverages, but you know, I'm not about, you know, being a hardcore drunk, and I don't think doing drugs is a very good idea, that sort of thing. And Hunter Thompson was quite a bit about that kind of stuff, and also politics that I don't really subscribe to and all that. But anyway, yeah, it'll be interesting here in about a month and a half when we're out driving through that, basically along that same stretch of road between LA and Las Vegas, going through the Mojave Desert there. And I'm pretty sure that we're not going to see bats diving in on us from the sky and all that. And if you've read the book or seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, yeah, let me know if you figured out what that Easter egg is. But anyway, I'm going to draw this to a close. I'm Gareth with Mountain Coffee. No, not Mountain Coffee Outdoors. Wrong channel. I'm Gareth with Flint Hills Briar. I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.